A good and godly and blessed day for all of you. Welcome to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV, channels 8, and for high definition television, you can watch us on channel 250 of Cignal. And you can also watch us via facebook.com/OneNewsPH and on YouTube by entering OneNewsPH. You can also download the Cignal Play app. And thank you very much to PLDT Home Fiber Internet for continuing to support the program and responding to technical difficulties in the few and very rare times that they occur. Last week we had a bit of a scare because apparently some construction company had been digging trenches in Batangas City and inadvertently hit one of the PLDT cables, but that was quickly remedied. Anyway, today is June 14, 2021. It's a Monday. I hope you started your day, your week with prayers and positive thoughts. Yung pong pinakamahalaga. Umpisahan ninyo yung araw ninyo sa dasal at sa positibo, sa mga maayos na pag-iisip na maganda itong araw, maganda itong linggo na ito. Before we get carried away, let's go now to the front page of the Philippine Star. And there we go. Vice President Leni Robredo welcomes one Isambaya nomination. The Philippines ranks 8 among 10 in ASEAN vaccine rollout. The Senate, the main headline, the Senate wants accounting of COVID vaccine budget, and the National Capital Region Police Office is gearing up for the State of the Nation address. In the lower half of the paper, we have Malacanang saying full vaccination not mandatory for travelers, DILG to LGUs, traders accept national ID for all transactions, and we have Meet Grace, the healthcare robot COVID-19 created, and last but not the least, the latest tally, 7,302 new cases of COVID, and that's about it. PNP quarantine checkpoints to stay. Okay, let's now go to the stories behind the headlines. The Philippines ranks number 8 among 10 Southeast Asian nations in terms of vaccinating its whole population, according to the international think tank Our World in Data. The country has vaccinated only over 4% of its total population, with 6.3 million doses administered so far. In terms of vaccine deployment or the total number of administered doses, the Philippines is second to Indonesia, which had already deployed over 31 million doses. Meanwhile, the Senate Committee of the Whole is set to conduct an inquiry into the executive branch's spending of the 82.5 billion peso vaccine budget. This as the government is asking for another 25 billion pesos to buy more shots. We will discuss more of this with Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire later in the program. And in other news, the Interior Department is urging local government units and private establishments to accept the national ID for all transactions and not look for other IDs. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año says the national ID, known as the Philippine Identification Card or PhilID, is a sufficient proof of identity for public transactions. And there you go. And our quote of the day. Today's quote is a Bible verse from the book of James, chapter 3, verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom. Okay, there we go. And this morning we will be interviewing not only Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire of DOH, we will also begin the day's interviews with one of our favorites, our professor when it comes to life and politics, none other than political science professor, esteemed resource person, Clarita Carlos. I hope we have the connection. Professor Carlos, good morning to you, ma'am.
Hi, good morning, Cito. Good morning to
Have,
your listeners.
have you had an entertaining week regarding all of the names that have been pushed forward for nominees for president and vice president, Ma'am Clarita?
Ah, because they are familiar names, it's nothing to think about more deeply.
Oh, okay. You seem to have the same reaction as many people. Same, same. Now, I wrote in my column today in the Philippine Star entitled Nomination Hesitation. Kasi that last week, vaccination hesitation. It seems that towards the weekend, what became the headline was nomination hesitation. Now, you've said that the names or the people nominated by the Isambayan group are same or nothing new. But how do you assess those very candidates? Were they good choices or were they, as you seem to react, nothing impressive?
Well, two things. Of course, Cito, we have already discussed many times that our political party system is broken. And therefore, I really don't know what kinds of procedures they followed in terms of vetting their candidates, in terms of like a search committee, in terms of criteria for selection. Also, I did see some enumeration, and some mentioned that they have, in fact, also asked some other groups, civil society, labor, etc. Now, to what extent these groups are representative of the sectors they represent, or to what extent they were already, people who are their supporters, we don't know. But the biggest challenge, I think, here is whatever the names are, whoever gets the highest number of votes on May 9 wins. That's the
Yes.
bottom line.
Okay. It remains to be seen, as they say. But the question here is, they seem to be all professional politicians, or at least 90% of them were professional politicians, and there were no, ika nga namin sa corporate world, no unsolicited offers, no unsolicited candidates from the private sector. What do you make of that? Because I had spoken to representatives of One Sambayan, and I said, it would be interesting if you could actually get people to think of other possible nominees who are not politicians. What do you make out of this no private sector nominees?
Yeah, I would consider the names that they have put forward as stale, like
Mhm.
panis. And I'm sorry to use that cruel word. I'm thinking, grappling with the word to use, but it's like pagkatingin ko ng pangalan, parang gusto kong humikab. Alam mo yun? Yeah,
Boring.
like that. Yeah, parang, wow, ito ba yung pinangangalandakan nyo? Sige-sige kayo ng mga promo ninyo na by June 12 you're going to announce. By the way, they're already violating election laws, strictly speaking.
But
You know, when you,
why do you say that, Professor?
why? Don't you think this is part of campaigning when you announce that Cito Beltran is running? Or are we quibbling about this? Diba?
Ma'am,
Hindi
don't say
ba?
that. Do not mention my name in that
Hindi nga.
category. Baka may maniwala.
Malay mo, bakit hindi? Imbis na nagko-komentaryo ka, mag-run
Gusto,
ka.
gusto mong hiwalayan ako ng asawa ko? But
Yeah,
seriously,
really.
this is electioneering already?
It's like the absurd reaction of Comelec when they say, no, you can't, that's not a violation because they have not filed their candidacy. I mean, how absurd is that? Putris ka, ang
Mhm.
laki-laki ng mga nando sa SLEX. Ang laki-laki ng pangalan mo doon, hindi electioneering ang tawag doon. Anong tawag
Mhm.
doon? Hello, and we're stupid people.
Well, huwag nating lahatin. May mga nagtatanga-tangahan lang because of government. Alam naman nyo dito, parang pag nahuli
Yeah,
ng
I
pulis,
know.
pasensya na po, hindi ko po alam. That seems to be so Filipino. But here's the thing, going back to, okay, so it wasn't impressive. You were yawning in boredom. Nothing new with the suggestion. Now, interestingly, and I don't know when this happened. It must have happened last time. Pasensya na kayo. 9:00 tulog na ako eh. Pero biglang si President Duterte daw, may binitawang salitang gusto ko talaga tumakbo si Willie Rebillame. Ano ba ito? Nangungutya lang ba ito? Nangaasar? Or is this the President's way of saying, you wanna talk potential candidates? Here, I'll give you an idea of how to get potential candidates. What do you make of that?
Sarcasm defined.
That's why I love talking to you.
Sorry ha,
Sarcasm defined.
umaga kasi nangungulit ka eh.
No, but a lot of people may miss it. Eh. A lot of people may miss because people, I'm sure their first reaction is, ano pa naman yan? Pati ba naman si Willie Rebillon may dinadamay ni Presidente? But I said, hindi nang dadamay si Presidente, nang aasar si Presidente.
Alam
Now,
mo,
what?
si Duterte, Sito,
Hmm.
kailangan mong basahin kung kailan siya nag-exaggerate, kung kailan hyperbole, kung kailan parable, kung kailan nanloloko, kung kailan nanjojoke. Kailangan sakyan-sakyan mo yan eh. And
Hmm.
this time, easily, sarcasm yon, ano? Like, it's like patakbuhin mo si Tolindoy o kaya si Panchito. Diba?
Mm. Yeah, but in terms of political science, do you have a term for this where he is showing his competitors or his political enemies on how it's done?
Yeah, in a way, but still, the way we're doing it, it's something not quite acceptable to me.
Mhm.
Where I think the front runner, Sara Duterte, is going to move away from the PDP laban and is going to rely on her grassroots hugpong ng pagkakaisa. I don't know
Mhm.
if I got it correct.
Yeah.
And maybe it may be a movement right now, and eventually it will become a political party. But many of those who style themselves as political parties, they are really political groups, ito. Wala silang karapatang mag-label sa kanilang sarili na political party.
Okay, now, was focusing on the nominees for president and vice president instead of Senate and Congress a big mistake on the part of Isambayan?
Maybe not. I'm sure they're still putting together because ang daming names diyan sa Senate, di ba, that they'll have to put together. So just cajoling these people to join, and some of them already withdrew, is already a big task.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, yeah, I'm not using the word greenhorn pejoratively, but yes, these people are greenhorns, and when the shit hits the fan, and we're talking financing, zero, 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 money in the bank, then magtitin out dyan, Sito.
What was the biggest flaw in the method of selection or the philosophy, the political philosophy of Isambaya? Kasi you mentioned the Senate. Alam ko, interesadong tumakbo si Senate President Tito Soto. Alam ko, nag-usap na sila ni Ping Lacson. Alam ko na si Senator Frank Drilon has big potential at the very least as Vice President. There are many experienced people and of course Pacquiao, whether he is Duterte or not Duterte, he has a big number of people behind him. What was the biggest flaw in the political direction of Isambaya?
Well, first of all, if I look at, the few people whose names I know there, they're elites. These are oligarchs, and that the larger part of our population really does not belong to that particular group. And then the kind of preaching is really what they were doing. Really got my goat. Para kayong G7 nakakatapos lang ng conclusion ngayon, mga values-driven, democratic principles. Hello, and we're bad people. You cannot take this stance and label everybody else and tar everybody else with evil or bad brush. No, it doesn't work that way. Politics is addition if they do not know that yet. So, ang dami na nilang inatsipera, di ba? Kasi parang kailangan lily white ka. And I really don't know whether these people are lily white, Things I know about them, they are not exactly so, no? So, like that. Whenever people style themselves as holier than the rest of us, then sama sa lasa in the first instance.
Yeah, so medyo masyadong maliit ang kanilang samahan at masyadong limitado ang kanilang mga pananaw. Because I've heard you mention it and I've heard other people mention it. You cannot build a platform based on the politics of judgment and hate. Parang parang panahon nung ni Cory, anything against Marcos and now anything against Duterte. Parang what do you say to that, Professor?
Okay lang sana yung against, pero por Diyos por Santo, ang dami na nating against. Can you just shift ang preposition ninyo to for? I want to listen to for health care, for education reform. I don't care about these faces really, because whatever they promise, if there is no political party behind them, laway lang yan, di ba? Diniscuss na natin in the previous interview, Cito. So there is something very wrong in the political structure where they think that these two people, in fact, can make things happen. Sure, the president is the chief articulator of foreign policy, but if he doesn't have the Senate with him, zero din siya. He's nothing, di ba? So,
I don't know if I should mention this, but I need to ask your opinion on this. Someone had told me yesterday in a phone conversation na may mga nag-iisip magtayo ng political party composed of multisectoral religious people combined with parang academe and former judiciary, etc. Kumbaga magsasama-sama sila and to put political party, pero hindi sila yung haharap, pipili rin sila ng sarili nilang grupo. What are your thoughts regarding, the religious being behind political parties and is it too late in the game to start now?
well, two things. You don't bring about a political party dahil nakamot mo ulo mo isang araw. A political party comes about because you have a party institute, you have a recruitment procedure, you have continuing membership, you have a platform na pinag-usapan yan, you have a program of government. You don't suddenly come about and say, sige lakapin natin ang mga scholars, etc., mga scientists, religious, and so on, and voila. May political party dito tayo. Siguro political group. And I don't even know about the cohesion. We're 400 days into election. Do you think you can bring that about? Very difficult. Especially if, again, financing yung elephant dyan yung Diablo Diba? Wala total mayaman naman church Sige, magbigay sila ng salapi, di masaya. Okay
Yeah,
sila.
but I think we're not talking about the Catholic Church here. We're talking about multi-sectoral. But yung role of the religious or even non-priest, not priests, not just the pastors, but you, me, and all of us who have shared values relative to God and the Lord. What's our role as far as politics is concerned?
Well, I don't mind that. It's only people who have bifurcated the church and the state. They're coming together. I'm sure you know our history, Zito. It was really the church before, diba? Lording it over us and inventing the divine rights of kings, etc., and giving it to the monarchs. And we cut off the heads of the monarchs, and we are electing our political leaders. But yes, the religious, these are the people who are in charge of the morality in our politics. If there's no morality in our politics, magpatayan na lang tayong lahat. So yeah, we need to hear their voices. But I think our election laws, and because they're not paying taxes, then they have no business dipping their fingers into our politics. Well, they can
So
remark in comments, di ba?
we need to hear their voice, their guidance regarding morals in politics and in leadership, but not be the politicians nor be the kingmakers.
Well, they may be the kingmakers. I'm sure they're doing that already. No? I mean, let's not kid ourselves. But yeah, there's no problem there. But if they're saying, let's put up this person, this is an excellent person, an upright personality, etc. Yeah. But the real test really is, lalagyan mo ba yan ng salapi? Kasi kung salita mo lang, wala nang nagpupunta sa simbahan ninyo. Sino nang makikinig sa'yo? Diba?
Oh, okay.
There's no such thing as a black vote anymore. I mean, that's a chimera.
Yeah. Now, I don't. You being a political science professor, I would presume that you love the evolution of politics. But is politics the way you've known it still alive in the Philippines? Meron pa ba tayong politics dito, or is this someone as Manny Pacquiao, was it pa Isko Moreno said that it is not supposed to be inherited, it is not supposed to be controlled through guns and gold, etc. May politika pa ba dito, or has it become commerce and pointless to discuss it?
Everything is political. So long as you have any transaction, whatever, even if you're talking about, heaven and earth, it is political. The thing is, Cito, I'm as old as the Republic. I was born in 1946, post-war. One of my legs is already in the grave. And our Republic is still a teenager. And, I mean, you compare it to other countries. I mean, look what happened to the U.S. I'm sure you know they had a civil war. I mean, look at many other democracies right now, so-called democracies right now, that to go through the gauntlet and very violent gauntlet. And yeah, our republic is still a teenager. Tinatanong pa niya, sino ba ako? Ang daming pagkakamali, ang daming error in judgment. And yes, I'm just comforted by the fact na ang mga pangalan na lumalabas, mga bata, si Sara Duterte, Isko Moreno, si Pacquiao, I think is still in his 40s, And I like that because young people, all things being equal, are open-minded. They're not bigots in the first instance. I mean, less likely to be so. And I like that. And some of them have reached out to me asking to be briefed on defense and security policies. And isisingit ko na yung constitutional reform because the structural change in our politics is very, very crucial.
Okay. Continue, Professor. Continue with the lecture.
Hindi. That's my point. Ngayon, talagang sobrang reklamo natin, nauubos na yung buhok natin. Ito, puro puti na nga yung buhok ko dito sa aking house arrest. Pero nakakakitaan ako ng sikat, May banaagad sikat. Nakakabanaag ako ng sikat. Bakit? 72% ng voters, mga bata. At yung mga bata na yan, mga hindi tanga. Kung sila nga lang yung mag-register at magboto sa May 9, they can change the face of our politics if they want to. And I'm banking on them. I'm banking on the increasing morality and uprightness of our people. Never mind, daming magnanakaw ngayon. Some of them even from the UP, maraming bobo, etc. Eventually, our politics would change. And one of the things that I've been driving at is you change the structure and you change behavior. That's the quickest thing, the quickest route to change, If I plan to change you, Cito, as an individual, I'm sure we've gone through this before. The empirical evidence suggests to us that we need 3 generations, 90
Yeah.
years, for me to change your core values, your beliefs, and your orientation. Let's not do that. Palitan ko na lang yung ano mo, palitan ko na lang yung institutions within which you operate. And that's the quickest route to change.
Well, I mean, to support that, I was just mentioning to a foreigner who's visiting us yesterday that, contrary to presumptions, the Philippines has moved forward in ease of doing business. Meron na tayong anti-corruption bodies, not all powerful, pero moving towards the right direction. We have an office against red tape. And I guess little by little, as you pointed out, if you put the right systems in place, people will be forced to follow the right system. Wag lang yung ika nga paiiralin yung lagayan, fixer, etc. Now, you mentioned a while ago that these potential candidates have asked you, consulted with you regarding national security, foreign relations, etc. If Isambayan were to go to you, and I would assume it would have made sense to go to you, what professional advice would you have given them, or what can they do now? Kasi parang, credit where credit is due, they mean well. Maybe they just presume that they knew everything. What would you teach them?
Well, usually, I don't engage in campaign things. Si Orly Mercado, ilang beses na yan nagkampanya ako. Andyan lang ako sa side because my expertise ito is defense and security. So ito namang nag-reach out sa akin, hindi ko pa sila binibrief kasi inaayos pa yung schedule no? Defense and security naman I can brief anybody. Non-partisan naman yan What I'll say, tell to A, sasabihin ko din kay BNC. Hindi naman mag-iiba isip ko sa China Sea, sa Russia, sa G7, etc. like that. Pero yes, siguro kung maghingan sila ng advice sa akin, I'll tell them, get off your high horse please and talk to the people. Kasi pati yung mga salitang ginagamit yung mabubulaklak wala na, para nakakayamot na, more of the same thing. And so ano ngayon, diba? Let's have something new. Mga panis na yan, stale na yung mga pinipresent nyo And we were hoping na, we were expecting na, wow, sige silang promote na by June 12 meron tayong announcement. At sabi natin, oh my God, yan lang ba? Tinintay-hintay natin. I'm sure I'm not alone in that kind of reaction, diba? Pati nga ikaw, ganyan din reaction mo. Sabihin.
Okay, we'll go for a quick break, Professor, and when we come back, tatanungin ko lang, pwede bang mahingi yung schedule of class ninyo para maka-apply ako ng class card para maging kaklase ko yung mga gustong magkonsulta sa'yo. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, let's find out who are these people seeking wisdom from Professor Clarita Carlos here on Agenda. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV channels 8 and 250. And thank you for PLDT Home Internet Fiber for sustaining us in our broadcast. Let's go back to one of our favorite interviewees, Professor Clarita Carlos, Political Science Department, University of the Philippines. Professor, balikan ko kayo. Alam mo, kanina sinasabi mo, yung pangalan ko, kandidato. I've actually been, just to tickle you, I was actually asked to run for the Senate twice, many, many years ago. And every time I went to the Lord and I opened the Bible, the Lord said no. And then on the third election, sabi ko, Lord, pag may nagtanong, hindi na kita tatanungin. Kasi nainis na ako, kailangan magbago na yung bansa natin. Wala naman nagtanong. So hindi pa rin ako nakatakbo. So the Lord's will be done. But given our situation, dyan sa UP, para maka-enroll, kailangan pumila ka para makakuha ng class card. Ngayon, gusto ko lang malaman sana, ito actually may nagtatanong dito, may we know who are the people who want to enroll in your class? Who are these politicians who are seeking your advice, your mentoring for national security?
Well, first of all, I don't think without their permission I can give their names, no? Siguro malalaman mo na lang kung manalo sila at kung mga sinasabi ko sa defense and security, i-articulate nila, which is really just my hope.
Okay.
Second, hindi ako nagtuturo ngayon, Sito, kasi hindi ako pwede sa online. Kasi ako hindi ako nakaupong magturo. Naglalakad ako sa pasulat-sulat sa blackboard. At tinitignan niya sa mata yung aking mga estudyante, nanduduro. Hindi ako pwedeng ganito nakaupo tapos nagde-lecture tapos sa likod ko aparador, hindi blackboard. Alam mo yun?
Yes.
So, off muna ako sa teaching ngayon. Second, parang Sito, hindi na tayo nagpipila ata sa UP. I don't know, I may be wrong. Kasi ang mga estudyante, like graduate courses kasi tinuturo ko nag-online sila, online enlistment ang tawag doon, even before the pandemic, no?
Mhm.
And the moment makarating ng 10 yung kasi 10 lang naman yung maximum na pwede kong tanggapin sa seminar course. Seminar kasi siya, ay hihingi na yan ng prerogative sa akin. And usually, I don't like to go beyond 10 kasi for a 3-hour course, tama lang yung 10. Even less nga would be good, mga 6 or 7. Yeah.
Ano ba ang mortality rate sa mga klase ninyo? Kasi you are a well-known terror of UP eh.
Depende. Pare-pareho naman ang criteria eh. Pag hindi ka nag-provide ng importante sa akin, punctuality. Pag nandun na ako sa loob, ibig sabihin late ka. No? Kasi that's part of the scholarship, Sito. Sabi, alas 7 yung klase. Alas 7, nandiyan ka, hindi 7:05. At ayoko nagsasalita ako, saka ka palang pakending-kending papasok. Kaya mumurahin talaga kita. Kasi, late ka na nga eh. Nagpapa-OA ka pa. Ang second, siyempre, miski hindi ako tinatawag na yung recitation, natatandaan ko, miski naman ako 75, natatandaan ko who are talking in class, who are conversing with me, who are challenging me, and sino yung may laman yung sinasabi, hindi lang nagpapakyut. And then I usually have only one final exam, and usually sa final exam, isang question lang natanong ko. It's not a question of who, what, when. It's really a question of why and so what. So, sulat ka, yellow paper, cursive, no? Yan ang standard talaga sa akin sa graduate courses.
Okay, so pagdating ng beloved daughter ko galing sa Holland, papadala ko kaagad sa iyo para maging alalay mo because she's studying na safety and security management. Yung mga tinuturo ninyo ang gustong-gusto nilang matutunan. But Professor, let's go back to the topic. What exactly do you want these candidates to be talking about when they win in terms of security, national security, etc.?
I want them to talk about human security. Just two things, health and education. Magkadugtong yan eh. Huwag na silang dapaan yung kung ano-ano pa. Because there will be more pandemics beyond the COVID-19 that we're experiencing right now, and many scientists have so articulated. And education is part of our health security. Human security kasi yung focus natin eh. Huwag na natin pakialaman yung ang military security, yung mga kinetic wars, and tago na lang tayo sa palda ng Quad, ng US, or whoever will offer that protective umbrella sa atin, dahil miski anong gawin natin ay hindi talaga tayo makakahabol sa kanilang military capability. Health and education lang tutukan nila. Na palagi tayong nandun sa buntot yan sa education. Minsan nasa senior high na, hindi marunong maglagay, cannot put two coherent sentences together. Why is that? No? Ang mga teachers natin ay kulang na kulang sa expertise, and that is the single critical variable that is responsible for effective learning. Miski nasa ilalim pa siya ng papaya, di ba?
Why exactly is that? Because tama ka, Professor. No, isang araw, nagwe-welding kami dito sa farm. Sabi ko doon sa aking alalay, sukatin mo nga kung gaano kahaba yan. And he was standing there puzzled. He had the metro. He was looking at the meter, and he was standing. And I said, Iho, do you know how to count? Marunong ka bang magbasa? And he kind of looked at me, and I said, but you graduated elementary. But, you're correct. Why is that? Why is it na nakakapag-aaral tayo, we claim to be highly literate, and yet on the ground, it's not.
Because we're teaching the wrong way. I'm sure nakita mo yung mga 3 years old nakatoga-toga tapos nagpamarcha-marcha down. Why are we doing that? Samantalang, I'm sure, Cito, alam mo sa Japan, sa ano na lang, 4th grade pa lang, 5th grade, middle school pa lang nagkakaroon ng mga competition, yung mga examination. Kasi play muna dapat 3 years old, play, tapos social skills, etc. Yun talagang ini-engender mo sa bata pa lang. And alam mo, kasi my grandchildren, 2 of them live with me, and tinutulungan ko na sila sa homework niya. Sakit talaga sa mata ng mga workbooks nila na mali-mali ang grammar, may mga conclusion agad, na hindi man binibigyan ng mga bata na pag-isipan nila. Ang mga exam nila, yung tamad na exam na true or false, na mga when was the Philippines discovered by Magellan, who discovered the Philippines. I mean, ngayon may Google na sila, in a second makukuha nila yon. But yung why and so what, hindi binibigyan ng leeway yung bata na gamitin yung utak niya. Ano nangyayari? Di siyempre lumiliit yung utak niya. Ayan. Ngayon, magme-measure lang, hindi niya alam. Yan, liliit talaga utak mo pag hindi mo ginamit.
Pero why is it that, kasi katulad kayo, no, University of the Philippines, institution na kayo dyan sa UP, and you have been teaching yung National Defense College, if I'm not mistaken. And you have the expertise, UP has the expertise. We are known for critical thought. We are known for making people self-aware and engaged. Pero bakit hindi kinakascade yung UP way to our national education? Kasi parang pag pinagtabi mo yung UP way compared to our primary and secondary education, parang dito memory, dito critical thinking.
Mali kasi EdCom 1 Di ba? Ginawa mong TESDA, ginawa mong DepEd, ginawa mong CHED. Bakit yan? Hiniwa-hiwala yung tatlo na yan. Dapat magkakadugtong yan. Isang istorya lang siya Ngayon, 3 fifth dams yung kinreate mo. So wala talagang continuity. Di ba? So yung K-12 mo, anong ginawa mo dyan? Alam mo, Cito, I'll share this with you, talagang karumal-dumal Hindi ba yan sa K-12 yung inalis nila yung mga liberal education natin, yung first 2 years nila sa UP, binaba nila dun sa 10 and 11 and 12, 10, 11 and 12. Ako yung nila, kumuha sila ng consortium of UP people, ako yung pinili sa political science. Sabi ng DepEd, Ma'am, Dr. Carlos, can you prepare a 10 to 15 minute video on the political system in the Philippines, parang intro to Poli-Sci parang Poli-Sci 11. Sabi ko, tapos the next meeting namin, sabi, lilista kung ano yung, kung pwedeng makontain doon sa 10 to 15 minutes, which immediately I knew, hindi ko magagawa sa 10 to 15 minutes, for God's sake, no? Okay.
Isang semester yung Poli-Sci.
Tell me about it. The thing is, agad inarticulate ko yun, sabi ko, saan gagamitin ito? Alam mo kung saan gagamitin Cito? Papanoorin ito ng mga guro na magtuturo ng political system natin. Palagay mo ba yung sasabihin ko sa 10 to 15 minutes, makukuha nila yon? No. Do you see how burara they were in this K to 12? Ano nangyari? Hindi pa yun eh. Pinakialaman nila yung content ko. And I said, what? Quit na ako. I left. Every one of us left, by the way. Kasi ako pa yung una nila i-video nun sa opisina ko, sa faculty center. I said, hello, ba't mo ako papakialaman? Ba't mo ako kinuha sa policy? Ikaw na lang gumawa. Ngayon, gusto mo pati content ko, pakialaman mo. Di ba?
Okay. Well, that's medyo hindi ko alam kung paano ako mag-react dyan, but it's
Yan
true.
Yan ang mga personality and institutional deficiencies ng ating mga educational institution. Lumang-luma na.
Yeah, even in the teaching style. Kasi sabi mo nga, ikaw, you want to teach in front of a blackboard, it is interactive, it is personal, and we seem to have reached a point in our history where educational institutions, even some of those teaching masteral programs, parang, hindi, compliance, submission, and then attendance, and sige, kahit wag mo nang bugbugin, wag mo nang pahirapan.
Yeah, why we're doing this, we have so trivialized and watered down our standards that we are really moving towards this slippery path of mediocrity. I'm sorry to say that, but that is what today is like. I'm 75. I started teaching when I was 20, Cito. So 55 years na ako nagtuturo sa summa total, di ba? Nakita ko talaga to. Nakita ko din yung katamaran ng mga bata ngayon. Sa akin, hindi. Sa graduate, kailangan magbasa ka within the week, 400 to 500 pages. At huwag ka magpapakyut sa akin when we next meet. Kasi duduruin talaga kita.
And that's masteral program.
Yes, MA and PhD. Wala kang karapatang mag-enroll dyan kung ayaw mo magbasa ng 400 to 500. You have to read. You have to soak yourself in the literature bago ka mag-challenge sa akin. That's the nature of graduate course. Kung hindi, diyan ka na lang sa BA at magtinda ka ng maruya dyan sa tabi-tabi.
It's interesting you mention that because my daughter required reading nila for first year college in Holland, in the Netherlands, 350 pages per subject.
Yes, you have to read.
Sabi ko nga, wala, bugbog sarado ka dyan kasi gusto mo mag-aral dyan, say, tanggapin mo yung bugbog. But here, medyo you were saying trivialized na.
Yeah, I'm not saying the others are a little bit more lax, but yes, they are a little bit more lax. Ako kasi hindi eh. Pag hindi ka nagbasa, tapos nag-discuss tayo ng Kashmir, tapos nagpa-cute ka lang, mumurahin talaga kita. Meaning, will you please sit down and shut up? Anong pinagsasabi mo? Nagbasa ka ba or ano?
At least alam ko pa kung saan yung Kashmir at hindi nasusuot yung Kashmir.
Hindi yung sinusuot. Yung pinag-aawayan.
Pinag-aawayan. Border between India and Pakistan. Hindi po yan sweater. Okay, in China. Thank you very much, Professor Clarita Carlos. As always, it has been educational. And I hope that those viewing us, particularly in Malacanang, would take note of what you've mentioned because at stake is the future of our children and many generations. Have a good day, ma'am. God bless you.
Sige. Good morning, Tito.
Good morning po. Ayan po, si Professor Clarita Carlos, and we now go for a break. And when we return, let's speak naman with Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire of the Department of Health for updates and clarifications regarding COVID-19, the vaccine, vaccination cards, and many more here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV, channels 8 and 250. And thank you for PLDT Home Fiber Internet. Let's now go to our next guest, none other than Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire of the Department of Health. A very good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning po, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Okay. According to the research done by Team Agenda, as of June 10, the Philippines has received a total of more than 12.6 million doses of vaccine from different manufacturers around the world, both procured and donated. Kamusta na po ang ating vaccine supply and delivery, Yusek?
Yes sir, no? So tama po yung sinabi nyo, yung pong mga procured and donated, yan na po yung total natin ngayon. And apparently, according to our vaccine czar, may mga parating pa rin po tayo by July and August na tagsa 10 milyon na bakuna at sana madagdagan pa ho dahil nagbigay na ng commitment ang ibang mga bansang malalaki na makabibigay din po sila sa ating country ng donated vaccines.
Do you have any idea how much we can expect from the over 1 billion doses that will be donated by G7? Meron bang science or formula for hatian, as they would say?
Well, none yet, sir. No? So wala pa rin pong binibigay sa atin as to how much we will be getting from these donations. But hopefully, there would be more allocations for the Southeast Asia because we know that around the globe, we are lagging behind. No? So kasama po ang Pilipinas sana dyan.
Mhm. What is our situation, Undersecretary? Are we good to go if let's say 100 million vaccines arrived yesterday or tomorrow? I mean, are we good to go to immediately distribute and vaccinate, or are there still many places na even if the supply came, hindi pa sila ready?
Pag tinignan ho natin kasi ngayon, meron ho tayong mga bakuna and we can see that across all of the regions, we are vaccinating already and we can see the confidence increasing. So kung halimbawa po, dadatnan tayo ng 100 million, ang question po natin ngayon would be the challenges to operations. No? Like for example, the transport of these vaccines, what type of vaccines would this be? Yun pong mga storage facilities po ba natin, ay meron po ba tayong ganun kakayanan? So it will depend on the number of the vaccines, what type of vaccines will be there, and of course, yung operational na needs natin kapag malakihan na pong pagbabakuna. But for now, we can see that we are very ready. Nakikita po natin yung mga systems natin are all working already. We had been increasing our jobs daily. And nung isang araw nga po ay naibigay na sa atin na report, we have reached more than 300,000 jobs per day. So pag tinignan natin, achievable po talaga yung 500,000 vaccinees per day.
Achievable. Okay, so what is the situation in terms of the sharing of vaccines, particularly NCR? Bibigay ko po sa inyo yung pagkakataon liwanagin to kasi last week or 2 weeks ago, medyo we touched on that topic with Antipolo na they weren't sure hating kapatid ba ito because people don't really know how the DOH and the IATF or the National Vaccination Group distributes or does the sharing.
Yes sir, no. So may tinutupad po tayo na framework pagdating po sa allocation and distribution. And naka-align din po yan dun sa prioritization framework natin. Aside from having these sectors being prioritized, we also have a sub-criteria which is the geographic burden. So when we talk about geographic burden, we are looking at areas with high number of cases, those areas which are populous and the density is very high. So pag tinignan ho natin yung allocations natin, inuuna po talaga, lalong-lalo na nung sa NCR nga, pag tinignan natin, because na andito po yung burden of the cases and also nakikita rin po natin na yung areas natin are highly populous and mataas ang density. Pero nung tumaas na po ang mga kaso outside of Metro Manila, nakasama na po yan dun sa criterion, na yun pong geographic burden has been considered. That's why dito po sa mga latest batches na dumadating ng mga bakuna, 60% of these were distributed to these areas outside of Metro Manila.
Okay, so para palang sunog. Kumbaga, kung maliit pa yung sunog, isang truck lang muna ang papadala. Pero pag medyo marami na, lumaki na masyado yung sunog, calling all fire stations na to that area. Now, this argument or this ongoing issue about where to send the resources, because sadly, mukhang yung problema natin sa Metro Manila or NCR Plus has improved immensely. Congratulations to DOH and IATF. But sadly, now we have bigger problems in Mindanao and in the Visayas. What is the DOH doing about this?
Well, we have seen weeks before that this shift has happened. Nakita na namin po and we have flagged that already. Kaya po nag-umpisa tayong mag-augment ng mga resources. We were able to push for the expansion of the different facilities in Visayas and Mindanao so that we can have additional beds. No? So they were all able to expand about 300 plus beds dito po sa pagtaas ng mga kasong ito sa ICU, and they were able to add additional 900 plus or almost 1,000 beds for the isolation and the ward beds. Nagbigay din tayo ng mga karagdagang mga gamit, PPEs, testing kits, and binisita po natin ang mga lugar. Tinignan natin ano ba yung mga naging issue, bakit biglang tumataas ang mga kaso. So ito po lahat ay close monitoring tayo sa kanila. Pero may mga inherent kasi na mga gaps ang mga lugar nito dahil may mga lugar po tayo talaga na ang mga ospital ay kakaunti, mga lower level facilities, ang ICU beds po pag tinignan natin, especially in Mindanao, we are using the SPMC as the center across these different regions in Mindanao. So kailangan po yun ang ma-expand natin. Nakita po natin yung kakulangan din sa manpower at unti-unti po natin tinutugunan ito.
Okay, although may mga kasama ka or mga kakilalang baka naiirita sa akin because I always keep hammering on the need for more hospitals. I'm sure you know that my heart is for the creation, the construction of more hospitals, especially outside Metro Manila. Is there someone in charge of this, USEC, na kumbaga go-to person? You want to ask questions kung may mga bago bang hospital, saan tatayo yung bagong hospital? Who does the media or the public go to for this? Is someone in charge?
Yes, actually we have the Philippine Health Facility Development Plan. Minapa na ho natin yung buong Pilipinas, tinignan natin ang mga facilities natin sa bawat sulok, sa bawat lugar, para makita natin ano yung mga dapat na tinatayo natin in the coming years. So yan po ang sinusundan natin. Hindi lang po yung mga ospital, kasama po dyan ang laboratorio, kasama pa yung mga ibang facilities na kailangan talaga for our health services. So we have Yusek Bong Vega as the head of our, he's the chief of staff at siya po ang tumitingin sa ating mga ospital. At para naman po dito sa planong ito, meron din ho kaming opisina na gumagawa nito which provides us with inputs.
Okay, are they already funded by law? Kasi ang fear ko naman dyan, Yusek, Yusek Bong Vega is a political appointee. I know he's a doctor, but I don't think he's a DOH career person. Now, ang worry ko, you have the Philippine Health Development Plan, but it might not be backed by a law and funding.
Meron na po yan. So actually, yung mga naipatupad na natin these past years were all based on this plan. So ito po yung ating mapa nga, katulad ng sinasabi ko, and every year, iyan po yung ipinapasok namin para ponduhan kahit pa konti-konti lang. So ngayon, because medyo nabawasan po ang pondo natin for facilities, ang atin pong inuuna, especially for 2021 and 2022, because there's a pandemic already, itinutuloy muna po yung mga naumpisahan ng mga facilities na na ginagawa para hindi po tayo gagawa muna ng bago, makapagtapos muna tayo ng mga facilities. But start 2022, meron na rin pong mga isinusulong that we are going to propose this budget so that we can establish more facilities.
Okay, please lang, sincerely, let me know how I can help, how I can make kulit the concerned lawmakers, because this is near and dear to my heart, because me and my mother have all benefited from public hospitals. Hindi kami pumupunta sa private hospital. Yusek, mabalikan ko lang yung tungkol sa vaccines. Has there been an observed difference or positive effect because of the vaccination that's been going on in the NCR?
Well, pag tinignan ho natin, based on observation, makikita natin that as the day passes, nakikita natin yung pataas ng kumpiyansa. Nakikita ho natin talaga na ang mga tao, they're flocking the vaccination sites. Makikita ho natin yan sa mga news reports, and anecdotal reports will tell us, and even our statistics are telling us na talagang tumataas. Pero may sadyang kakulangan pa rin dahil hindi pa rin ho natin naaabot yung gusto natin na makover ng mga matatanda at saka those with comorbidities. Hanggang sa ngayon po, mababa pa rin po yung ating coverage. So ang ginagawa po natin ngayon, local governments are being guided so that we can do something else to increase the access for our senior citizens. Like for example, they go house to house, there are mobile vaccinations na ginagawa, at meron na ho tayong mga best practices na ito katulad sa Taguig, sa Valenzuela, sa City of Manila. Meron ho sila mga ganitong kanya-kanyang practices so that we can be able to access, or the senior citizens can be really able to access our vaccination program.
Well, I'm broadcasting out of Lipa City. Medyo liblib na lugar yung aming barangay. Pero we've heard that in many other parts of the city, vaccination has been going on, especially in the SM Mall. May nangyari ng mga bakunahan last week. But I have observed, and you're correct, that there is a need to go to either house to house or siguro, Yusek, to adopt the election campaign approach, yung may naka-bullhorn, may mga maliliit na mga tarpaulin, because believe it or not, personalan ang aming kampanya dito for people to get vaccinated, because they all say, wala pa kaming nadidinig. Sabi ko, paano nyo madidinig? Di naman kayo lumalabas ng bahay. Hindi ninyo madidinig talaga. So, what plans does the DOH have in terms of, getting more people, lalo na yung mga matatanda? Has there been an uptick? Umangat na ba yung mga nagpapabakuna, or medyo resistant pa rin yung mga senior citizens?
Sa base sa statistics natin, tumataas naman po, kasabay silang tumataas with the rest of the other sectors na pinaprioritize natin. At nakita rin po natin na maganda po yung reception ng mga tao dun po sa mga sinasagawa ng local governments na best practices nga to reach them. We don't really look at it as talagang solely na hesitant sila It's really something of an access problem pa rin po, na kailangan natin maintindihan yung estado nila, because sometimes most of them actually are really fearful of going out. Most of them hindi na sila nakakasakay ng jeep, ng tricycle, hirap ng maglakad. Yung iba naman bedridden. So we thought na talagang ang local governments talagang maganda yung ginagawa. Katulad po sa San Juan, talagang binahay-bahay po nila ang mga nakakatanda. Nakita nila yung matatanda at binakunahan nila sa kanilang bahay. And we think this is the best way to go.
Okay. Now, there are suggestions, or may mga nagsasabi na after June 15, baka mas lalo pang ma-relax yung ating quarantine status. Does the DOH support this, or is there still reason to believe that it's too early to do it?
Well, it's really not too early, or what we are looking at right now, although NCR really has talagang yung tremendous po ang pagbaba at pagkakaayos natin dito sa ating National Capital Region. But we have seen the shift of this burden of this disease to Visayas and Mindanao. At nakita ho natin talaga na nahihirapan sila to respond. So ang sinasabi lang ho namin, and what we have recommended actually, is let's go slow and let's try to see, because the situation is very fragile. Hindi din naman po tayo isolated region na anytime yung surge of cases, because tumataas sa ibang lugar, maaari ring bumalik sa atin. Kaya kailangan dahan-dahan po tayo lahat.
How do we prevent the surge from coming back to Manila? Kumbaga parang alon, parang tsunami. Nanggaling Manila, papunta na ngayon NCR, papunta na ngayon sa Visayas, Mindanao. How do we prevent that same wave from coming back to the NCR?
Well, pareho pa rin po ang ating ipatutupad. Kailangan po na hindi lang sa NCR but across the regions, we should be able to comply with the safety protocols. Napaka-importante. We were able to get data from the ILG because they started apprehending violators. And just for the month of May, actually it was just May 11 to June 1, meron na po silang 50,000 na nahuli na hindi nagsusuot ng face mask na maayos o wala talagang face mask. Meron ho silang nahuli na 13,000 plus individuals na hindi nagpi-physical distancing. So what does this data tell us? Na yung protocols po talaga natin, kailangan ipatupad natin na maayos para ma-prevent natin at ma-break natin yung chain of transmission. Another thing would be border control. Border control is very important kasi napaka-porous ng borders natin, both within the country and both country and outside of the country. So kailangan po yung dalawang yan very critical for all of us. And the third one would be, let's all get vaccinated if we are eligible already because this will really help us na ma-break natin ang chain of transmission.
Well, I do hope I get another chance to speak with you, Yusek Vergeire, because I've run out of time. But again, maraming natutunan. And please extend our congratulations and recognition to the DOH family for getting the job done. At least ngayon, medyo kalma-kalma na tayong lahat dahil dumadating na yung vaccines. Thank you very much, Undersecretary.
Maraming salamat po.
Okay, yan po si Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeire, and that's all for today. It's been a good start to the week and with promise, and sana po you pick up what our guests have mentioned today regarding politics, governance, and public health. Have a good day. God bless all of you. Please continue to pray and be grateful. I'm Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Cignal TV channels 8 and 250, and we are One News.